out, because we are also humans. Sometimes there is room for how will I put it? There is room for mistakes sometimes.
In fact, the guy lacks some training.
Oh, yes, you would have emotional attachment with patients. We are all humans, isn't it?
I think it's high class of indiscipline, and whatever punishment was given to him, I think he did deserve it.
Please don't forget your own training. Pack as you are packing your 23 kg, pack your own training with it.
A patient that is not stable's number and want to engage in a sexual relationship with them, it's just silly. It's just, I don't think it's about whether they're Nigerian or not. It's just somebody that is just silly, that does not have that professional conduct to be a nurse.
All right, hello everyone, it's Adekola. So I'm not here alone today. I've got some professional colleagues with me, and they will be giving their reaction to a recent development that involved a Nigerian nurse in the UK. It happened that this nurse uh, was working with Success Partnership Foundation Trust in the capacity of a mental health liaison nurse, and was alleged to have breached professional boundary with his patients by exchanging phone numbers, sending text messages to the patients outside professional capacity, asking for patients' sexual history, and suggesting that patients enter into sexual relationship with him. So we'll be bringing you what exactly transpired between them and how the hearing went, the sanctions, and the reason for sanction. We bring issues like this to our hearing, not just for us to hear about it, but just for us to learn from it, because they are all there for us to learn from. All right, so details of the charge. The charge raised against this gentleman, there are actually 5 of them, according to the statement released by the Nigerian Midwifery Council. The first one was the fact that he exchanged his number with patients without clinical justification. Yeah, so that was the very first allegation charge they brought up against him. And the second was the fact that he sent text message to the patient without clinical justification as well. Then the third one was actually the content of the message now, like sending message to the patient asking how many boyfriends the patient has had, or words to that effect. Then the fourth thing was the fact that he sent text message to the patient asking when she last had sex. That looks absurd, isn't it? Or words to that effect. Then lastly, also in the text message asking if the patient would consider being your girlfriend. Okay, so those were the main charges that were raised against this. I don't know what might have prompted him to doing that, because obviously this patient is a mental health patient, so it's considered to be vulnerable. So, and you as a nurse, as a mental health nurse, you are aware of our vulnerability, because on when you met, you were the one that did assessment for this patient. He was telling the patient that normally he doesn't give his number to his patients, but because you are special, so he gave his number to the patient and obviously took the patient's number as well. Then as soon as the patient was discharged from under his care, then he started sending messages to the patient, asking all those naughty things from the patient. it came to light when a social worker visited his patient, and the patient reported that to the social worker from the council. Reported, gave them screenshots of all the messages that this gentleman has been sending to him, and they took it up from there. So when he was contacted, obviously he denied it. So his initial alibis was the fact that his phone number, his line might have been hacked, because he claimed that his phone number is on the intranet, is on the internet, is everywhere. So anybody might have just picked his phone number and hacked it. That he's not aware of the conversation. Like, he's not aware of it, so he denied it outrightly. They didn't argue with him, so they set up some investigative panels, and they found out that he actually sent those messages. How did they find out? Fine, as expected, he has already deleted all the conversation from his phone. But I don't know how they did it, but when they took his phone to check, he has deleted the messages, but they found a journal on his phone. They call it calllog.db or something. So yeah, calllog.db, that was, I don't know what it means, whatever that one means, but they said they found the journal on his phone, and that journal contains deleted messages. So the deleted messages they saw were consistent with the screenshots that the lady had produced. So in that situation, the only two things that could have happened was that, number one, is an evidence that this message left from your device. So the message left from your phone, not even about your number now, but you use this particular device to send those messages, for it to have been on that journal. So the only excuse you can give now is, fine, let's assume they hacked your number, then they must have also taken your phone away from you and used your phone to send those messages at those points in time without your consent. Okay. And from the information on the journal as well, it showed that he sent some personal messages to his family, I think to his wife, in between the conversation, and he acknowledged that he sent those messages. So that made the matter clearer, and the argument was that, okay, let's assume 8:05 you sent a message to the patient and you said you are not aware of that message, you are claiming you don't know about the message. Then 8:07 you sent a message to your wife. There was a message showing that you sent a message to your wife, and you acknowledged that. 8:08 or 8:10 you sent a follow-up message to the patient. 8:15 your wife responded, and things like that. That conversation within that space of time. So the only probability would have been the fact that someone snatched your phone from you 8:01 and gave it back to you 8:04 to send your message, and took it back again from you without your consent. You took it back, and which is to a higher degree of probability, is definitely not possible. So that was where they convicted him. They nailed them to the cross, and they felt he's not being truthful as well, and he has not demonstrated any insight into his action by making effort to deny those interactions. And this gentleman also, he used to be a police officer, so they brought that up against him as well, that being a police officer, so they believe he has the background knowledge, he has enough knowledge to know that to know what is obtainable and what is not obtainable, what is acceptable, what is not. He has good understanding of professional capacity, being a police officer, being a senior liaison, mental health liaison nurse. So they believe he knows what he is doing. He knew the implication on the patient, and he still carried on with the action. So they felt his fitness to practice is obviously impaired. The Royal College of Nursing, which is the union he belonged to, they tried their best to help him, because some of the hearings, the RCN gave him a legal representative that was there, a lawyer that was there representing him. There were even some of the hearings that he was not in attendance. It was the legal representative that was there to represent him and things like that. When they all unanimously agreed that, okay, it seems we can't argue this any further, he's guilty, then the RCN came up with the argument that, okay, this could be just a single lack of judgment. They brought back his record since he's been practicing as a nurse, that there has never been any complaint against his practice. So this is just like a one-off event, and they should consider him for a softer punishment or a milder sanction. Okay, but they turned it down, and they gave their reasons. Among other reasons, the main ones they highlighted was the fact that he didn't show any insight. He has not demonstrated any insight, and they stated in the statement they gave that they gave him several opportunities to demonstrate insight, to show insight. He didn't show insight into his action, and there is high chance of him repeating it. He has not taken time to reflect on what he did as well. They also felt his attitudinal, that for you to be aware of someone's vulnerability, even if you are not a nurse, for you to be aware of someone's vulnerability and the effect it could have on the person, and you still carried on pursuing this individual for sexual relationship. Not only that, asking her some very weird questions. Okay, before I welcome our guests for their own remark, I just want to say, if there is no clinical justification, just keep your personal information to yourself with your patients. Don't be tempted to probably exchange numbers or give personal information to your patients. You must know when you are crossing that professional boundary. We can't overemphasize this. Okay, professional boundary is very, 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 very important. Okay. Whatever happens in the four wall of your clinical practice, let it stay there. Let it stay there, and God will help us. Okay, so without taking much time, that's the summary of what actually happened with the gentleman. So I'll start by welcoming Esther to us. Esther is she's a nurse, she's an experienced nurse, and she practices here in the UK. So Esther, you are welcome. All right, Esther, so what's your take on these developments, and specifically issues around professional boundaries, inappropriate relationship with patients seem to be increasing recently? Is there any reason why this is happening?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Esther. Thank you, Nurse Adesola, for this opportunity of sharing my views on the issues you just raised. I'm a nurse in the UK. I trained in Nigeria as well. My whole opinion about the issue is the nurse presented himself in an unprofessional way, and put the life of the patient at risk. He used the vulnerability of the patient and molested the patient sexually, which is absolutely wrong. You don't use because a patient is vulnerable. You have the secret of the patient. You have every information that you have taken during assessment of the patient and use it against them. Even if you are in need of sexual gratifications, as the case may be, there are other places where you can get your sexual gratification, not from a patient that is vulnerable and is looking up to you for help, and you're using that against her. I think it's high class of indiscipline, and whatever punishment was given to him, I think he did deserve it. That's my own opinion.
All right. Thank you. We also got with us Adesola. I call her senior. Privileged to have you with us.
It's a pleasure.
There is a significant increase in the number of nurses getting in trouble for inappropriate relationship with patients, more than ever before. Why do you think this is the case, if I may ask?
I actually don't think that there is an increase in the number of nurses that are getting into trouble for inappropriate relationship. I feel that it's coming more to light because all these things have been happening before. It's not the first time that it's been happening. There's been so many issues. I don't think it's a lot more because we should have actually learned from incidents in the past of nurses, having inappropriate relationships with their patients. But it doesn't look like we've learned from it. Because it's very difficult to answer the question, why do I think that there's an increase? Because obviously I don't think there's an increase. I just think it's come to light a lot more lately. It's one of the major things that we know in nursing, that it puts your professionalism in doubt. If you have a relationship that is not meant to be, it doesn't have to be sexual or not sexual. If there is no need to take that relationship, patient-nurse relationship, out of the hospital or out of the setting where you work, then why do we do it in the first place? Especially in this area that we are, as Nigerians, we know that we are more, social, and there are some things that we might not count, as a breach in confidentiality because of the kind of culture that we have. But around here, it's a lot different. That it is very easy to make a mistake because there is a thin line between the professionalism in professional relationship with your patients and it's getting to non-professional. So I know, for instance, where I was working some years ago, NHS ward, an HCA was being disciplined for having the Facebook account of one of the patients that had been discharged from the hospital and having a relationship with them. There's no doubt that things like this will happen because we are all humans. I've seen patients that develop quite close relationship with particular staff, but it's knowing how to keep that professional, as well as knowing that if a relationship come about, it's not going to affect your judgment or your care for that patient, and that patient should actually not be under your care at the time when that relationship will commence. So I don't think there is an increase because there's been a lot of issues, but then I think a lot of more issues are coming to light now, and bearing in mind that a lot of nurses are being taken into the country and they do not understand the atmosphere, the culture, before venting into, some things that they do. Let me just put it that way. Because whenever you go to a new place, you need to look around, see how are things done here before you start, taking your own steps. But not most Nigerians are like that. They just want to jump into things and do things the way they are and introduce themselves and be loud and be there, and some of these things are not, they're not aimed at, as in the nurses do not mean any harm, but obviously especially in this context, it can cause harm to the patient. So we just need to tread carefully.
All right, thank you for that. And how does this particular developments make you feel as a fellow international nurse, especially involving the Nigerian?
I think I've just answered the question in the question you asked earlier, just a little bit about. I'm an international nurse, yes. This being a Nigerian, it's a difficult one to say how it makes me feel. Like I said, as I was saying earlier, when you come to a different area, you need to learn, their code of conduct. NMC has a code of conduct. One of the main things they are about is the professionalism. In Nigeria, you might be able to draw, you might not be able to draw a line between, that inpatient patient nurse relationship and when you're out, because we don't, how do I say this in English? We don't elaborate on things like like that. You just feel like the nurse is being friendly. But here it is different, and that's exactly how I feel. Like I wish that we can be more, calm and take our time to understand the way nursing is in this area, in this culture, compared to back home. Um, this case involving a Nigerian doesn't mean that all Nigerians are like that, because I've met many Nigerians that are quite professional and they know what they're doing. It pains me so much that this is a mental health nurse and they're meant to understand, the issues that mental patients face, and that you would know that and then actively still engage in trying to get um a patient that is not stable's number and want to engage in a sexual relationship with them. It's just silly. It's just, I don't think it's about whether they're Nigerian or not. It's just somebody that is just silly, that does not have that professional conduct to be a nurse. And I'm not gonna, there's no two way about it. It shouldn't be a nurse, not to talk of a mental health nurse, because in other words, you're just exploiting that patient. They're not stable. They came in because this patient came in because she was suicidal, and then you decided to take that patient's number. So why would you even, I would, if I was in that council as the judge or whoever is making that decision, I wouldn't even wait to listen to anything else. He doesn't deserve to be a nurse. That's just wrong. There's so many girls out there. Why would you choose a patient that is suicidal and now that's the person that you now take their number because the patient's, well, I don't know, whatever. You cannot fall in love with a patient in the 1 hour, 2 hours that they're, or even if it's 10 hours that they're in the A&E, especially when they're unstable, except if you yourself, you're unstable. So that was total unprofessionalism from the nurse. Well, it pains me that it's a Nigerian, definitely, but I think it could be any other person that is unstable like this nurse, and now denying it and trying to change things around. It's just no, it's just uncalled for, really. There are times where you can have relationship with your patients, but then don't take it, especially when you make it sexual. In the next couple of days he was texting all rubbish about boyfriend or no boyfriend and all that. Days, this was days. It's just, so he was going for exploitation, so no two ways about it. Yeah, so that's my answer.
Okay, let me ask you, Adesola, have you ever had an emotional attachment to a patient? If yes, how did you undo it?
Have I ever had an emotional attachment with for my patient? Well, yes, you would have emotional attachment with patients. We are all humans, isn't it? Um, Emotional attachment though is a law. It's really broad. I had an emotional attachment with an elderly Nigerian that came to my ward. To be honest, I remember vividly. Um, she was visiting, and because she was visiting, there was some issues. There was some things that the family was trying to hide, and she had cancer, and she was struggling a lot, and so many symptoms that were not controlled, and that's why they had to admit her into hospital. So they knew that they would have to cover the cost, and so many issues were happening. And I tried to just be that known face and try to talk to her and say, oh, this is what we're doing. I was by the way, at that time I was a band 6 nurse, so assistant manager on a ward, and I deal with discharges and trying to sort out like patients who funding it, we're not sure. We need to establish where the funding is coming from, and have that discussion with their family. And she was even struggling with eating the hospital food. I cooked jollof rice, put it in a in a nice cooler, took it to her. She was happy and all that. But all of a sudden, the family, which I think they've been in this country for a long time, they came and she introduced, and she was trying to say, oh, this is the nurse I've been looking after me. And they just looked at me like, what are you doing? Like just gave me that blank face, like, no. And I noticed that the next couple of days, the woman also was now withdrawing. I don't know what they fed her. It's just fed her. It's just, I think we don't even trust ourselves when we're around here, because I went with the open heart and I was trying to help to see that this woman's symptoms were controlled. The next day she was discharged even without being all right. I think they against medical advice, and all that happened. And I kept worrying about where will they take this woman to, as and what's going to happen to her. So yes, you will get attached to different sort of patients, young, old, female, male. You will get attached. But what do you do with that attachment? You need to maintain the fact that I'm a nurse in this particular situation. I am the nurse. I am here, to assist in helping you get better. So that should be first and foremost. And if you know that that's emotional connection you're having with that patient is not going to help you to facilitate the care, it's not going to improve the care that you're delivering to that patient, it's going to hinder it in any way. If that emotional attachment is going to make you look unprofessional, then definitely you need to curb it. And it's very easy. You're not in the hospital 24/7. You don't need to take that relationship outside the hospital. So why are you collecting the numbers? Don't go into that at all. Don't collect people's numbers. But I know there is an area where even the youngsters, the singles who might be attracted to, the guys. And what then happens is that you make sure that that patient is not under your care when that initial reaction is happening. So let it go, let them go, let them be discharged. If it's gonna happen, it will happen one way or the other. You can still miss them or whatever. Or there's so many, that it could happen that a patient comes to you after you've met them and you're already in the relationship. So what then happens? A patient can be admitted to that someone that you've met, that you're already, having a connection to, comes to the hospital and you're looking after the person. In that situation, you're meant to actually excuse yourself and let others know that you're not the best person to care for that patient if you think that your attachment is going to hinder the care. So it's about us being, there's no thin line. I wouldn't say there is a thin line, but know that you shouldn't hinder the patient's care. It should not be like that nurse that knows that this patient is not stable and then still wanted to offer the attachment and the care that she's longing for in order to get what he wants. So that's just wrong. We've all got conscience. The code of conduct for NMC, it's just, that you're going to be responsible for any decision you make. You are going to be accountable for them. You are meant to maintain professionalism no matter what. I don't think it's difficult. I have been nursing for the past 10 years, and so far I don't have managed, and I'm sure many other nurses will say that. So to be honest, I wouldn't think that's a difficult thing to deal with. You just need to know how the same way you would handle a relationship that you don't want to move forward outside work. That's how you handle the one that you don't want to move forward with at work. So it's not difficult. uh, yeah, it's not difficult, basically. um and I just hope that it's a matter. It's quite, if you, from the way I'm even answering, you can tell that it's not a clear cut thing. But you need to be wise. You need to be diplomatic about whatever decisions you're making. You need to look after yourself, because like this man or this nurse, spin is taking of his livelihood. He might end up doing something else, but is that what he loves to do? So weigh the greater good. Should I pursue this connection, or keep myself as a as a professional nurse that I am? Yeah.
Thank you, thank you. And finally, before I let you go, Adesola, do you have any advice for your professional colleagues watching this?
Oh, yeah. You Do I have any advice? I've said it as part of what I was saying earlier. Advice is look after yourself first. But we can argue that looking after yourself is also maybe, well, with your soulmate that you met in at work, and maybe you discover in the 5 hours that you're with them that this is your soulmate and you don't want to let them go. I'm not gonna say take their number. I'm not gonna say don't take their number, but I think the main thing for me is, will that relationship hinder your care for that patient? Would it be that you have taken advantage of that patient at their low time? Because we know that when people are healed, they are not the best of themselves, and because you're caring for him, him or her might be the reason why they are attached to you. So generally, it's not the best. Just stay away. You know, just stay away and maintain professionalism. If they ask you for the number, obviously no. If a patient has been harassing you on the ward, you have every right to approach your manager and say, can I not look after this patient, please, because I don't like the way it deals with me. So be open and be honest about if there is a connection that is coming up, and maintain professionalism. So yeah.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege to have you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure as well. Thank you.
We also have in the house Nurse Adeyinka. Nurse Adeyinka, hello, can you hear us? Are you with us?
Hello, my name is Adeyinka Wahid. I'm a registered nurse. Nurse Adekola, thank you for having me tonight. Eshe.
You are welcome. Thank you. So can I have your initial reaction to this development, Nurse Adeyinka?
So you actually want to know my feelings, my reaction rather, when I read it. When I read this stuff, my reaction was I'm sorry, I don't know how to interpret that in English, but that's just what came to my mouth. Because what the guy did was totally wrong. There's no shortcut to it. They go need the camera pearl or so. The guy was wrong, really wrong. Wrong from the first instance whereby you collected the patient's phone number. Secondly, having those dirty chats with a patient with mental issues, for crying out loud. Who does that? Even in Nigeria, where it is a lawless country whereby anybody can go away with anything, you still don't do that. You don't do that. It is wrong. And to me, it deserves any punishment. That's yes, and it will, for me, it will serve as a lesson to others that you don't, even if you have feelings for your patients, check out a yano, let your patient get better, and if you meet on the road anyway, then you can have a chat and talk, oh babe, I like you, blah blah blah, but not when patient is sick and really needs your help. Then you're now collecting number, you're now saying rubbish. The end you have sex, when was your last day? Uncle, in fact the guy lacks some training.
That's fine. Thank you. Thank you. So I'll ask you the same question, Nurse Adeyinka. Have you ever had an emotional attachment to a patient? Have you found yourself emotionally attached to a patient? If yes, then how did you manage to handle it?
Uncle, it's a no. It is a no. I have never been emotionally attached to any of my patients. The thing is just to give them comfort and hope, but not emotionally like what I have read. Nothing emotionally.
Lastly, before I release you, Nurse Adeyinka, do you have any advice for your professional colleagues watching this?
Let me start with those people that are still in Nigeria and probably you've gotten your COS or you've passed your high LTS, your CBT, you want to come to UK, or you're already inside plane gongo coming to UK. Is that please don't forget your home training. Pack as you are packing your 23 kg, pack your home training with it, because even in Nigeria, if you don't make use of that home training, this country, this UK, you need your home training. I'm telling you, you really need your home training. And in all, whatever you're doing, be professional with your colleagues and with patients, because colleague can kill you if you don't know it, and patients too. Don't be too, I'm not saying you should not be friendly with them, but maintain that standard, that professional standard. Don't be too emotional, don't be too carried away with patients. Patient can just patient wanting your free o, like you just your free but you go get, because patients want to make money, they want to file case, they want to win cases and get something from it, and you with your 1,300, 1,600 tó ṣẹjọ́. So I would say that don't forget the son and the daughter of who you are when you come to UK, or you, if already you are in UK, be professional at every level, do your job, discharge your duty dutifully, and you jeje, and you go strike off. Thank you.
All right, let me come back to you, Esther. All right, so let's have your final advice for your fellow professionals watching this.
Okay, for my advice to my colleagues, yes, this is nursing profession. Many of us don't know the reason why we came into nursing. So many people chat about, okay, I'm into nursing because of the monetary aspect of what I can gain from it. First, this profession is all about caring. You give care, you support, you help to preserve people's health. You are an advocate as a nurse. You are a counselor. You stand for the patients. You keep patients' secrets, and you make sure that their health and safety is of utmost importance. So if all these are your reasons as a nurse, then you know that these patients, they are vulnerable. They are at your mercy. Most of them, they could be in pain. They don't know what they are passing through, and you are there as a circle, as a support for them. So don't use those things against them. I understand the fact that we are humans. Also have emotions. We have blood running to our veins, and you can have an affection or attachment to a patient. But you should know when to draw the boundaries. You should know when you're going too much. You can like a patient more, maybe because the patient was receptive. Some patients might be grumpy, and so maybe when you first saw the patient during your assessment, patient was lovable, was receptive, was showed a good personality, and that could draw you towards that patient. Fine, but that doesn't mean that you should treat this patient at the expense of others. Everybody has equal rights to you as a nurse because you are there for all the patients, not a particular person. And so, if that is the case, always remember that you have a pin to protect, you have a license to protect. And when you're taking care of a patient, know the reason why they're there, know the reason why you're there, know the boundaries of your service to them, and know the reason why you are there as a nurse to take care of them. Remember the ethics and etiquette of nursing, and remember your professionalism while you're there, and this will help you. If you feel you're getting too much attachment to a patient, you can ask for help. You can tell your senior, someone you trust. You can even talk to your manager. Oh, I think I'm getting too much attached to this patient and I don't want to. I've been struggling. Can I just change this patient? Can I have a day off and just settle my mind of it? Those are the things. Can you look out for me? Say it out, because we are also humans. Sometimes there is room for how will I put it, there is room for mistakes sometimes for us because we are humans. But if you shout out for help and say, okay, this is what I think, I have a feeling for this patient more than others, and I can see it, because obviously when you're doing things that are wrong or you think they're unprofessional, you will know yourself. So ask for help, tell people, and they will help you. And that could save you from losing your license or your PIN. Okay. Concerning my own, that's a funny one. Concerning me having emotional attachment to my patients, well, I can say I've never had any emotional attachment to any patient. When I was in training, I remembered we were being trained that you are there to go to the hospital to help this patient, not to have emotional attachment. I can remember my coordinator then would say, don't go there and start having boyfriends and girlfriends or something like that with the patient. Don't start toasting toasting your patient or anything. So I went into the hospital with the aim of helping patients, alleviating their pain, making them recover as soon as possible, getting out of the hospital and moving on to the next patient. So I know that sometimes I feel empathy towards some patient more than the other, but one thing I've learned is I don't want any patient to do me any favor. Don't give me things, don't say, because by the time you start collecting things from patients, by the time you start doing collecting things, favors from patients, it's just normal. The patient will demand things that you yourself knows this is wrong, and you will be in a fixed, because one good thing they say deserves another. So once you've collected gifts, favors from patients, then you have to give it back. So set a boundary. Know when to collect, know when not to collect, know things. If a patient brings, for instance, a box of chocolate and say, Esther, this is for you. I say, oh, thank you. This is for all the nurses on the ward. And immediately in the front of the patient, you're already calling a colleague and say, oh, see, this patient gave us a box of sweets. That is showing the patient that, no, I'm not taking this personally for myself. It's for everybody. So even if the patient has any kind of emotional attachment with you, at that point, you have given a very strong information and message towards that patient and say, no, this relationship is strictly professional. It's strictly within the hospital. I don't need any favors. If you set that as your goal, you will not be caught up in the web of emotional attachment and all sorts of sexual immoralities with patients. You set up your own standard, and it helps you. Then you remember at the back of your mind that there is so much at stake for you to lose if you go on in that kind of emotional journey with the patients. You lose your name, your good name, you become demoralized, you lose your PIN, your license, and it could affect your own personal world. So there is a lot to lose. Let's try as much as possible to be empathetic towards a patient and still keep a professional environment. Thank you so much, Nurse Adekola, for this opportunity. I'm so privileged. Thank you so much, and thank you all nurses in the UK, all African nurses. You're doing a great job. Thank you, and have a good evening. Bye.
So thank you for your time. Thank you for watching us. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. Thank you, Nurse Adekola, for having me. See you some other time. Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀.
Wow, wow. Thank you, everyone. It's a privilege to have you with us. And thank you for watching. I'm sure you've picked one or two things from all that has been said. It's not enough to just listen to the incident. We are not here to probably mock anybody or ridicule anybody. Okay. The essence of this is for us to come together, pick out the lessons in there, and learn from these incidents. Okay. A wise man will always learn from another man's experience. So if you are here to subscribe, please kindly subscribe and use the notification bell so you can be notified whenever we have interesting content for you coming up. Okay, so thank you for watching once again. I'll see you in my next video. Cheers.